Hello, my name is M.Chapman, elementary education major from Honolulu, Hawaii, and this is my partner.
Hi, S.Davis, elementary education major from Atlanta, Georgia.
Today, we're going to have a video that discusses learning disabilities, and our main focus in this video will talk about dyslexia.
The IDEA definition for dyslexia is characterized by difficulties with accurate and/or fluent word recognition and by poor spelling and decoding abilities. This basically means that the student or kids or whoever might have trouble pronouncing certain words, not know how to spell certain words because they don't hear the certain sounds of the words, decoding words as far as, okay, you can say it a certain way and they still won't be able to write it down that right way. So that's all types of ways that a student might have dyslexia.
The prevalence of dyslexia is the most common base learning disability. It's a language-based disability. It is commonly found in reading, writing, and spelling difficulties. Within those, people have reading disabilities, and an average of 70 to 80% are more likely to have some form of dyslexia. It is predicted that anywhere from 5 to 10% of the population has dyslexia, but the percentage can be as high as 17%.
Dyslexia is not one that's commonly identified by most doctor visits. However, with the finding of the problem in the learning aspect, many of these tests is presented in a lot of factors where the child can basically, you're using like benchmark tests and other standardized tests to find ways of how this student might have dyslexia. So, like I said, standardized tests like benchmark or just end of the year test, just to see if that student is progressing and if they're understanding what they learned all year.
Okay. The characteristics of the disability dyslexia, it consists of multiple symptoms. It's not just one focus. Dyslexia is affected not only in one aspect, but in everyday life. So if a child has dyslexia, it may be an issue with them word-wise, but it could be an issue within the home as well.
Dyslexia is predicted to be caused by the impairment in the brain's ability to process homophones, which are the smallest units of speech that makes words different from each other. So they might hear the word somewhat, but not all the way. So that might be one of the impairments that they do have. But this doesn't result from vision or hearing problems. Neither is it due to mental retardation, any brain damage, or any lack of any intelligence. It's not saying that because they have dyslexia, it causes any other problems. It's just they have dyslexia.
The parent perspective on having a child with dyslexia can be very hard at times. When a parent is told that their child has a disability, they have an emotional breakdown because they feel like they weren't up to par with making the child as perfect as they possibly could, so they feel like their child is broken. In a recent article I read, I noticed that a parent said that having a child with dyslexia felt like a nightmare, and he went into depth saying that his social life and his home life was more of a hardship because every night he was in the house working with his daughter who was dyslexic. So they would spend hours upon hours trying to figure out why she could not grasp certain materials, as far as like reading chapter books and other rural language-based practices. Another parent stated in the same article that she had two children with dyslexia, and she said that dyslexia is more of a crisis than a learning disability. She said it took a toll on her because she couldn't really focus with being a parent who had two children with dyslexia and disabilities. So as far as support, she was by herself and she found it very hard. So there's ways to go about it as far as like being engaged and intervening with your child when they have a disability. So in my personal opinion, I feel like if you engage with your child, you'll have a better understanding of who they are, essentially as their own identity instead of just ruling them off as a child who's just having a problem. A proper way to execute this problem is having a set plan. A set academic plan can help not only establish a goal for that child who is struggling in common comprehension and understanding language-based skill sets. So you could sit down with the teacher and do a journal, common words, do exercises and whatnot to progress the child, either inside the general education classroom or within a support system with another teacher. I noticed that some parents who set up this plan had a educational goal as far as like incorporating something that they're good at to understand how their child progresses with learning things, even if it's monitored or self-taught. I know that arts help, rural arts help, so if you have music or arts and crafts, something that the kids can get their hands on, then they'll have a better understanding than to sit down and just do it with paper and pencil. I noticed in another article that I read, that a mother explained that her daughter she was so adamant about books. She loved books. However, she did not like to read them. So her mom would try to squeeze in lessons here and there to understand and show her daughter that it's possible to learn and have fun. But since the daughter was so adamant about just getting to the end of the story, she couldn't really focus on what the plot and everything was and the common words of the book. So in the midst of her learning the vocabulary, she ended up getting upset. She closed the book, and she hopped off her mom's lap and found something else to entertain her. So there's ways to address and intervene with your child who has dyslexia. So I'm telling you, like, don't give up on your child. Like, they're great kids, like they're very intellectual. You just have to open that mindset and that frame for them to engage and indulge with their learning disability. So if you provide them with pride, courage, and the confidence needed to be a child with dyslexia, then they can perform well than to perform without the needed support to help them boost their self-esteem.
Okay. There is not a single test, not one test that can specifically diagnose a child with dyslexia, but there are a number of factors that can consider a child with dyslexia. Some can be like a child's developmental, educational issues, or medical history, their home life, questioning them. They might have problems with their vision and hearing and brain tests. Or you can also do a psychological test. And testing reading, and testing with like you can do a reading test and see if they once they read the whole thing, do they understand it? Are they able to answer the questions at the end to see if they actually comprehend what they just read? Mm-hmm. So reading comprehension is a big thing that can help you see if your child might have dyslexia or not. As well as you can do other academic skills, but students are monitored by the progress in the class on a certain book, if they're not focusing, and not focusing them to read out loud or anything else in that manner. So reading out loud can bother a student who has dyslexia because they might not be able to say the words, and it kind of will be embarrassing. So you'd rather not have them read out loud. But if you do have them read out loud, make it to where it's a one-on-one, so you are able to help them along the way with the words, instead of just like, oh no, that's not the word, this is the word. If you're one-on-one, they can not be so embarrassed about other kids laughing at them because they didn't get the simplest word out there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. 2 effective ways on dealing with dyslexia for a teacher. So as an educator, you want the children in the classroom to understand you. Not only set up a relationship, but a learning relationship in the learning environment. So here are some ways that you can establish this in your learning environment. The Barden Reading and Spelling System is an individual one-on-one tutoring system designed to help improve the reading, writing, and spelling skills of students who have dyslexia, ranging from children, teenagers, or even adults who might struggle due to dyslexia and any other learning disability. The program is divided into 10 different levels. Within each level is 10 to 15 lessons that cover the different methods and sequences of teaching reading and spelling. The second system is the least prompts. It is a specific practice that involves defining and implementing a range of prompts to assist students in learning new or other difficult skills. A prompt is a specific action made by the teacher or other practitioners that can use verbal instruction to complete a task that will help the students respond correctly during the learning activity. In order for this procedure to work, the teacher and or practitioner systematically delivers the prompts and or actions to the student in order for them to start the prompt. They will be provided with the least amount of assistance and additional prompts that have increased levels of needed assistance until the students are able to correctly perform and given the task independently.
So to describe the first one that she just mentioned, the first system or thing, is basically like you're one-on-one with the student and you're going over each thing. And if they don't get the first, like she said, it's 10 different levels and it's 10 to 15 lessons within those 10 levels. So if they don't get the first level, you go right back over that first level until they get that first level done. And then you keep moving on until you get to the 10th level where they might be able to do it completely on their own, don't need your help at all. And then the second one, the least prompts, that's basically like, okay, I'm going to give you the least amount of instructions and I want you to do it without my assistance. I want you to try to figure it out without my assistance. And to where after you keep doing it so many times and they keep going to different levels, they won't need your assistance at all. So basically they're both kind of the same, but the first one is basically working with reading, writing, and spelling skills. The other one's working with just not having as much assistance with any, like just plain instructions on something. So that's just like simple instructions like go stand up in line. Mm-hmm. So it can be the smallest thing, but they're different because one works with the reading, the spelling, and the writing, so that they can improve on that because they need to advance as much as they can. But the other one is mainly working on trying to hear exactly what the teacher is saying and comprehending it and also doing that action.
It's that skill-based for individual practices. Those two are great methods that I highly suggest for educators who are dealing with students who have dyslexia in the classroom. Another note that I want to say about dyslexia does not mean that you're physically impaired as in you're damaged. Dyslexia is so commonly unknown. Like most people do not address it because they don't want to feel as if they are labeled. So when you come about a student with dyslexia, don't break down. You want to engage with them as much as possible. If the child feels comfortable in the classroom, then they can execute and ask questions a lot as far as their academic standards. With dyslexia, you don't want to put a child out on the ledge and make them feel a certain way in the classroom like they're not important. You don't want to isolate them as if they're broken. You want to treat them with the same respect you would treat any other student, no matter of color, race, or any religion base, anything. You want to teach them just like you would teach any other child. Dyslexia is more of a struggle with languages, especially when you have so many students who speak different languages. I know that in most cases, if their first language is not English, dyslexia can take a toll on most kids who are not first standard language based, English language based. Dyslexia can also be seen as more of a problematic state than an actual disability, and that's what causes more issues because so frequently this disability can go undetected. It has gone undetected for years. So most people who are acknowledging that they have a disability they didn't understand that it may be mild or severe. So when you have dyslexia, you want to not only acknowledge it for the sake of you, but establish a plan, whether if it's academically, educational, a support system, because nobody should have to deal with a hardship of just doing it by yourself. So that's why we highly suggest that if you have a disability, you want to identify it in the best way, shape, or form and move from there. Because if you decide to not acknowledge it, you will not ever be able to understand physically and emotionally the hardships that you have when you are dealing with the disability. Thank you.